So again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you, and welcome to our webinar that we are hosting on the topic of recruiting students from Brazil. It is a topic that has been present in the market and in the educational sphere for so many years, because Brazil has become one of the most important markets for study abroad segment, and over the years also became a very mature market. So today we are very delighted to host a quite diverse panel of experts who will be sharing their knowledge and their innovative kind of strategies on how to connect Brazilian students with educational institutions worldwide. So first of all, I would like to welcome all of you here, our attendees. Thank you for finding the time and joining us today. The webinar ultimately aims to kind of equip you with tools and insights into emerging trends to be able to successfully recruit students from Brazil. We'll be joined a little later by our esteemed panelists, and they will help us understand the Brazilian study abroad segment and also reflect on all the changes that we see happening in all the major English-speaking destinations. So, without further ado, let's start the webinar. Prepare your questions and thoughts. There will be a Q&A session at the end, and there will be space for a discussion. And before we are joined by our panelists, I will share with you a brief presentation with a couple of headlines to looking at the demand that is coming from Brazil, to kind of give us headline figures and start the discussion that we can base on. So I am going to share my screen. And we'll go, it's going to be up to 10 minutes, so not too long. I'm not going to bore you with too much heavy data. All right. Before I start, I'll take a moment just to introduce BONARD. BONARD is a market research company. We have been doing research in international education for 15 years now. We do actively advise different types of stakeholders, anybody and everybody active in international education. So that could be governments, it can be associations of English language providers or study consortia, or it can be individual providers, be it universities, English language schools, or English language testing providers. We have 4 offices to kind of cover the geographies. We have office in China, we have 2 offices in Europe, and then we have 1 office in Brazil. We are quite a big team of researchers, 91 of us, and to this date, we delivered more than 600 projects that help us to build a large and cumulative knowledge that we have in-house. So this would be a little bit about us, and I am going to go straight into the session outline. So we're going to have a brief market presentation to look at the demand. Then there will be a panel discussion, and again, Q&A session. Please do leave your questions in the Q&A section on Zoom, and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. All right. So let's have a look at the number of international students that are coming from Brazil to the selected destinations. The list of destinations you can see on your right. So we are talking about cumulative numbers for Australia, Canada, Ireland, UK, and USA, as these are the main destinations where we see the flow of students coming from Brazil when they are studying abroad. This is not 100% of the market, but it will be very close to what the volume for in these particular destinations would be. So if you have a look at the 2019 on very light, we have a little over 106 with 100,000 students enrolled in one of the 5 destinations, and that would be either for language courses, it would be K-12 sector or higher education program. This is a large number, and it really indicates a strong demand and interest that is coming from Brazil. And over the years, we know that Brazil has become a very much established market, a very mature market for recruitment. To this date, the closed statistical year is 2022. So if you have a look at the total number of students, it was at 83,600, and it was about 80% to what we saw pre-pandemic. And this was predominantly attributed, if you have a look at the green line of the English language sector, which was much more volatile, and we saw a significant drops in 2020, and then it was even further drop in 2021. Out of the whole region, in LATAM, actually Brazil had very gradual recovery in 2022. Most of the other countries reached their pre-pandemic volumes already in 2022. We do see that happening for Brazil in 2023. So if you look at the forecast, we do see gradual growth for higher education students, also gradual growth for K-12 students coming from Brazil, and then rebound to 100% of the student mobility for English language sector in 2023. Oops, sorry. Also, to kind of understand the changes in destination popularity among Brazilian students, we did have a look at the student numbers per individual sector and kind of compared if there were any shifts between the destination preference between 2019 and 2022. So if you have a look at higher education and K-12, there is actually quite consistency in the destination preference. In the top two places, you do have US and Canada, with the only difference is that higher education, the top destination is the USA, and for K-12, it's actually Canada. That can be attributed to historical ties with educational institution, the geographical proximity, the destination. However, with English language travel, and there has been a change in the top destination, at least in the top places, where we see Canada actually dropping to the second place in popularity for English language students, and Ireland actually popping in the first place. And this, from the discussions that we had with the sector and what we see, will remain the same in 2023. So although we do see 2022 here, it's probably going to look very similar to in 2023. We do not expect any major changes in destinations popularity. 2024 might be a slightly different story. We'll see that, and we'll discuss that further in the panel discussion because of all the changes that we see coming in the major destinations such as Canada, Australia, and the UK. Okay. For higher education, we were also able to have a look at the student numbers by destination, so not a cumulative number. So here you'll see higher education students from Brazil that been studying between 2019 and 2022. In some destinations, we are already able to see the 2023 data. So US has always seen a growth in higher education segment. However, you do see that it has not reached in 2022 their pre-pandemic volumes. Out of the conversation with the industry experts, we'll see where the 2023 will end up, because we did saw a slight increase in the visa denials in 2023. I think the trajectory will still be upward for higher education and for Brazilian students in the US. It depends on the extent of how big the recovery and what the levels will be reached in 2023. Canada remained the second most popular preferred destination for higher education students from Brazil. I think one of the important things to note here is that 70% of these students attend colleges, and then the 30% attend traditional universities. So there is a clear preference of what type of programs and degrees Brazilian students are seeking in. And then there is quite a significant gap if you look at the volume with other destinations. So UK specifically experienced decline. We saw a drop starting in 2020, and it's continued to going down even in 2022. Also for Australian institution in higher education, the volume is not overly high. Brazilian students tend to prefer English language courses, so the ELICO sector in Australia, and also vocational education. Now, I wanted to point out Ireland here because it's still the smallest destination in terms of higher education students from Brazil, but you do see a continuous growth of interest coming from Brazilian students to stay in Brazil. If you couple that with knowing that Ireland is the largest destination for English language students, that means there is a slight progression rate also to the higher education, and it is growing. So that's something to kind of have a look at. It's still, albeit small in volume, but all the trends usually start this way, that it's small in volume and we see continuous growth going forward in the years. The other sector we are able to have a look at is the K-12 segment. However, there's a limitation a little bit about data availability, but from what we know, and you can clearly see that the two most popular destinations for K-12 students are Canada and USA, and there is upward trend in attracting more students. And that's one of the things we will discuss as more junior students from Brazil are opting to study abroad. One of the things that will be important, especially for Canada and USA, it is the proximity for students when they are opting to study in this particular segment. With Canada, we were also able to have a look at the most popular provinces for K-12 students. It kind of reflects also if you look at other sectors. So the most popular destination for Brazilian students in Canada, it's Ontario, followed by British Columbia. And then we have Quebec, Alberta, and New Brunswick here. So this is kind of on the demand side of Brazilian students kind of see per segment. What I also wanted to highlight is that we added a new development into our intelligence platform, and we also started to track visas, visa data issuance and grant rates, because it does allow us to have a better understanding, and we are able to forecast student mobility a little bit better. And it become ever more important if in the current situation where we know that there will be shifts in the student grant and student visa issuance, and to wait for the full 2023 data, which are usually released anywhere between June to August. This gives us a much quicker and sooner look of what is going on in the industry. So it does help to maximize the recruitment potential from particular markets. And that being said, I did prepare a couple of case studies so you can kind of see what we are looking at. So the only difference here that you'll see is that Ireland does not have visa data available. So you'll see New Zealand here. But we are able to have a look at Brazilian student visa grants by destinations. And what you can see here, for example, for Australia, is that Alicos is the most popular sector for Brazilian students. And if you compare the Q1 2024 and Q3 2023, the visas are actually down by 39%. And that is an opportunity for other destinations, because there will be a clear shift and the students will be looking for other destinations where they can do their studies. In terms for Canada, it remains strong. Study permits issuance is very stable. And it also been the case in the first 2 months of 2024. So Canada, very stable. Now, New Zealand, there is an ongoing recovery. They open up their borders way after every other destinations. So they reach only about 50% of their pre-pandemic volume. So this is going to take a little bit of time for New Zealand to recover. Now for UK, this is mostly higher education students because they need visas. And if you go for English language, they either travel on visitor visa or they use other type of short-term visas to enter the country. Interesting here, from the data available for US is losing a market share in Brazil. Okay, so that's a significant learning also for US institutions. That there is also a shift a little bit of the mobility that it's going to the US. So what are the opportunities really here? You have to be aware of the shifts because that gives you an opportunity to attract students that might have wanted to initially start it, for example, in Australia, but the visa got rejected and they are looking for other alternatives, and it goes for every single destinations as well. And the last slide is just to show you a little bit more of a benchmark. So if you kind of compare student visa grants, and they're still high, for example, for the ELICO sector in Australia. But if you look at March, it already dropped to 90%, 92%, and it's still very high. But it also tells you that probably the number of applications has dropped, where we see also and that is connected to the visa grant rates. Despite all of this, what you see on the slide, Brazil actually offers the higher student visa approval rates compared to any other markets in LATAM. And I'll finish up the presentation by kind of pointing you out a couple of new emerging trends that we have seen based on the conversations that we had with the industry, and we'll delve more into this with our panelists. So one of the things that we did notice, it is a rise of junior students, and it's still albeit smaller in volumes if you compare to ELT sector or even to higher education. However, there is a continuous growth and appetite for junior students to kind of study abroad and experience that international education much sooner. For the ELT sector specifically, Brazil is actually hopping on the same trajectory as we saw with other markets, where we did saw a movement from just the general plain English to courses that have some added value for them. And it can be leadership program, it can be social media management, it can be anything, but they are looking to have, besides learning the language, to have some other added value that comes from the course. And this also goes hand in hand with the development in junior segment. So we have much more academically driven, much more savvy juniors, and that is kind of pushing also the interest from just general English to have the English Plus. And we also see a mobility shift among Brazilian students. So Malta, for example, has not been mentioned as part of the destination, but we did see over the last couple of years more interest to study at Malta from Brazilian students. And there also will be shifts among the destinations, depending on how these students will react to the changes and the government policies that are kind of coming in the major destinations. And also, everything is connected in the ELT sector. So with the rise of juniors, we do see an interest of more academically driven Brazilian students, and that can be translated also in the numbers that we see in higher education. So there is a continuous growth of students from Brazil interested in higher education as well. Although, again, if you compare it to ELT sector, it's still small in volume, but there, for both K-12 and both higher education, there is growth, and there is predicted continuous growth. So this would be the last of the presentation. I don't want to take more time. I think I took more than I wanted to. So I am going to kindly ask our panelists to join us. And I am very much happy that I can welcome all of them. So allow me to introduce and start with Maura Leo, who is the Chief Executive Officer at YET Education and Travel. Maura, could you share a little bit about you so we know who you are? Oh, sorry, Maura, you muted, so you have to unmute.
Sorry, long time don't do any Zoom calls. It's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation, Bonard. I think we understand that Brazilian market plays a very important role. I am in the market for more than 30 years. Before being an agent, I am an educator, so I'm very keen to be working in this market and sharing our ideas so we can be on board all over the world with very good students from Brazil.
Thank you, Maura. And we are also joined today by Alex Argenta, and he is the president of Belta. Alex, would you like to share a little bit about you?
Sure. Thank you, Ivana. Thank you, BONARD, for hosting us. And I hope some of our thoughts may give you a better view of the Brazilian market. Sorry for not having shaved so well in the picture you see there on the screen. I think I did a better job this morning here. But anyways, as you may know, Belta was funded in 1992. That's exactly the same year I was being a high school student in the United States myself. So, it's always a great responsibility to speak in front of the association about the Brazilian market. Being the first agent association created in the whole Latin America more than 30 years ago. So, but I always have a very optimistic view of the Brazilian market. We have been seeing very nice numbers in Brazil after pandemics. And usually we are able to, in this kind of chats or conversation, bring you even a better overview of what we believe is happening and may happen in Brazil in the next few years. So I hope we can help you here today with some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And last but not least, we are also joined by Andre Simonetti, and he is the product manager at CI. Andre, could you share a little bit about you as well?
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks, Bona, for the invitation. It's a great pleasure for me to be here and try to help clear up many questions probably the public has. Well, my story at on this field, on the industry, it started similar to Alex. So I was a former high school exchange student, a J1. By that time, the only option was J1 or boarding expensive programs in Switzerland. So I went to the J1 and was the best experience I had. So it was so good that I kept on this field. So I've been on the market since I really started in 1988. So I just completed 35 years. And with CI, I've been for 26 years for the rest of the last years. Okay.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen so we can see each other a little bit better. Before we start, I just want to encourage again to all attendees, if they have any questions, to drop them in the Q&A section of the Zoom, and we're happy to answer at the end. All right, so let's dive in. I started the presentation showing you kind of the numbers for 2022, where we are heading probably in 2023. I think, however, the most asked question would be what education institutions can expect from the market in 2024. Andre, would you like to start with that?
Sure, yes. I guess I saw the graphics. I think in our case, I guess probably most of the Brazilian agents is pretty similar, at least for high school and language programs mainly. So for us, high school, Canada is #1 and US is #2. And it is keeping this for, I guess, for the last 3 or 4 years, I think. And then it comes UK as a third destination, most popular, and the others, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. Okay.
How do you see the demand in 2024? Is it going to continue with the upward trajectory, or do you see that maintaining about the same level? What would be your kind of look at 2024? Where do you think the Brazilian market will go?
I guess, well, we are, finishing April, so the 4th month of the year, and so far it's been quite good. I guess the demand is really increasing, and as I mentioned, I guess like Canada and US, they are very solid markets for talking about high school, and so I guess it will keep on growing. Okay, Australia and New Zealand, unfortunately, since you mentioned New Zealand, especially New Zealand, they were the last country to reopen their borders and the consulates, so it took a while for us we're recovering slowly. Both countries, both Australia and New Zealand, for high school.
Maura, I see you nodding. Would you like to add something to what Andre? Do you see it the same way, the same trajectory for Brazil?
Yeah, I think the trends have to do also with because Brazilians need a visa to go to certain countries. So the trends also move a little bit according to how they can get the visa. So, and I think pretty much the US and Canada for K-12 is what, because what the parents think is closer to Brazil. So they always think, okay, I'm going to send my kids to those countries. But I see Australia and New Zealand. We just came back from New Zealand, and they are very eager to, recover the market. So they're very much organizing themselves. So it's pretty much up to us to look into those markets. But I just want to bring a number in terms of Brazil has a little bit more than 202 million people. And from those people, we have 44% of kids from 5 to 34 years old, not kids, not people. So it's a very young population, and there is a big market there where we can work. Of course, you have the economical differences, but it's a country with a lot of potential. So we need to really work together with the countries and our partners abroad and be optimistic, as Alex said, because I don't think Brazilians need to go abroad. We don't speak an international language. We speak the beautiful Portuguese, but we need to learn a foreign language. So they need to go abroad. So that's the potential of the market. So don't give up. Keep on working on us, agents in Brazil, because we have a lot to do, and it will never go backwards. It's a growing market, international education and sending students abroad.
I'm very glad you mentioned that, actually, because with Brazil still being considered a mature market, so how long it actually has been present in the study abroad segment, the potential and the growth in the young population is still there. We don't necessarily see that in other traditional destinations, especially in Asian markets. So the growth potential in Brazil, despite being a very mature and present market in study abroad, is absolutely still there. Alex, would you like to add to this question some angle that has not been covered yet?
Actually, we in a few weeks we should have a more detailed picture of the 23 numbers in the Brazilian market through a survey we also carry in our association here. But I'm pretty sure we're gonna see positive numbers compared to 22. And then when you ask us about 24, I do agree with Andre as well that the year has started really well in Brazil overall, speaking with a lot of agents here. I really see at least a picture of stability in our market. We already forgot the pandemics in Brazil. Since 22, we already saw the Brazilian market larger than 2019. So 23 probably better, 24 as well. I don't really see a forecast of larger increase of the market, but a stability of always growing, as your numbers also showed in your presentation. And if I would just point out something, it may be coming in other questions in our conversation today. Maura spoke really well about the visa issues. We need a visa to go to almost every single place in the world as Brazilians. So right now, in the start of the year, a few countries are starting to change some regulations to shift the bar for visas, especially for adult students. So we may see some changes, and then it may take a while for the Asian market to readjust to this new reality, especially in places like Canada or Australia, where the changes of visa procedures have been quite significant lately. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen towards the adult market during 24. It's not going to disappear, but we have to be able to get adjusted to this, as soon as possible.
Yeah, and that would be one of the questions we'll get into, because the demand is not going to disappear, but it might redirect. But I do wonder, because there has been very different feedback when we talk to parents and then being in touch with the end customer about not knowing what is going on. And there has been a lot of changes, be it Canada with the student cap, be it Australia with kind of redefining their immigration policy, being the changes in immigration policy in the UK. I wonder, what is your kind of feedback from the parents, how they are reacting? Do they have enough information? Do they know about the changes? Do you have enough information what is going on and what are the implications for you? Alex, would you like to, or Maura, if you wanna, whoever.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
I can say, I think parents, that's why they need us, the agents. That's the importance of our work, is because they need us to do the counseling and let them know exactly what they have to do to send their kid when we are talking about young students and also adults. Very rarely someone knows exactly what to do to enter the country they are willing to go. So it's very much our job to do this counseling in a very proper way. So to get training from the countries when they have these changes, like through the Brazilian Association, we all get trainings from, Australia, New Zealand. We are having one about Ireland and so on and so forth. So parents still need, they don't know, very rarely they would know what to do to send their kids abroad. And they need to know everything prior to deciding where to send their kid to avoid a visa denial. Even though it's a young kid, they need a visa to enter like Canada, Australia, the USA. So we need to let them know what they have to present as documents for the consulates and embassies. So that's something that we know what to do. And the trend is always looking for possibilities in case they have a visa denial, right? For the junior programs, for instance, as we are going to talk later on, we can see trends of changing a little bit so they don't have to face problems in getting the visas.
Yep. Alex, would you maybe comment on also if the demand might be redirecting and if you see that shifts in popularity? And I just wonder, so we usually have a very good visibility on the traditional English language speaking destinations, so we can kind of see the shifts between them, maybe with a little bit of delay, but we can see that. But I really do wonder, are there any destinations that are popping up that, again, they might be small now, but they might be gaining prominence, especially in the situation that we might be in 2024 with the visa denials?
Yes, I think Mara spoke it really well with this is the flag we rise here every day, with the agent flag, how important it is in Brazil. It's a really agent-driven market, different than many other countries in the world nowadays. But at the same time, trying to be quite objective here, I haven't really seen any big changes that affect our daily life in the US and Canada. It has been, kind of overall speaking about the same for the majority of what people look for. But once again, Australia and Canada right now, we might take a while for everybody to understand how to readjust of these new regulations and everything. This may affect the move of some sales as well. And then bringing some, Brazilians, they're not going to stop traveling. The international education market overall is not going to go down. It's going to continue growing step by step, maybe towards some new ideas. So, and at this time, at the same time, the work rights that the Brazilian students can have abroad, which is also always geared with the visa rules, is very important in Brazil, especially, of course, for adult students. So, where this becomes clear and really, well organized, it helps these moves as well. So in that sense, for example, New Zealand is a country that was shut for so long, and now we've been doing all we can, all the agents together with the government and everything to really advertise the country better to our public as well. So far, visa processes have been smooth with the New Zealand consulates in Brazil. So we should see a rise of this market again, the Brazilian market, I believe. Malta, we also mentioned something in the beginning, and they're also showing some work rights for the students, which sometimes is a little bit unclear as well. So we're here to try to fight every day with these governments to bring better information. So, these two destinations may see some new numbers in Brazil as well. Once again, we're not going to stop sending students to Canada, to Australia, to all those places, but we need to see how the flow goes. And we keep here every day trying to open the doors for new visa training, especially with the consulates, the embassies of these countries to, because the more, as it is an agent-driven market, if the agents are up to date with everything that's going on, and we know what to tell people, people are gonna, buy more those destinations from us. So that's a quick picture I can see.
No, that's very interesting. And I think it does answer a lot of the questions that might pop up in terms of destination preference. We also touched upon the junior segment, and I actually saw a couple of questions in the Q&A section already coming in the section. Andre, I know that you have very good visibility on the junior segment. So I wonder, what would you say is the age group that is the strongest one for the study abroad segment? And one of the global kind of trends that we see is that juniors have their study abroad experience at younger and younger age. So it used to be 17, 18, dropped to 15, 16, and now we are seeing even young. Could you elaborate a little bit on where is the demand, what age group specifically among the juniors is really driving the growth that we see for junior students now?
Okay, great. Well, I guess for the junior demand, it changed a little bit. Okay, I guess probably in the past, we normally would send groups to US and Canada and UK, I guess. Now we have different destinations, like we had a group to Malta and another group to Dubai, and it was a great success. We've been doing this for 2 years long. And then in terms of age, I would say that it was really probably in the past between, let's say 14 to 17. Okay. Now we have children with 10 years old joining this group, this closed groups I mentioned, not going alone. So it's really increasing. I guess it's they really try, they do a test. They start with a junior program, and then they really like it, and then they come to us again. So now I want to do a high school. And then they do a high school, maybe extend the high school and continue on higher education. So it's a real trend for Brazilians. I would say that in the past, that wasn't common. So the Brazilians for high school, for instance, they would go for just for the experience for 1 semester and then come back, return to Brazil. Now they go for 1 semester without any intentions, but then they stay and they continue their education. They get a diploma in US or Canada, for instance, and then continue in higher education. So it's really changing. And as Alex say, we keep moving. If we have any issue with in terms of visa in a certain country, we try to find another option, because as all of us agree, Brazilians love to travel. They love to have this experience. And as Maura said, we need to improve their English. We need to learn English. The population is huge. Okay.
So one of the things we kind of, I guess, picked up on, and it's very much related to juniors, it is the academic component. So is that something that you see as that? So we used to see a lot of Brazilian students really go and study English language, but more and more, is that the way you see things, that you have students more and more academically driven compared to what we used to see before?
Oh, for sure, it's increasing. Sorry, it's increasing. At least in our case, what we call teen experience. So it's different from a junior program. Okay, it's different from just going there for, let's say, 15 lessons per week plus tours and shoppings and all that stuff. So now they're going for high school and having experience. So we have like the STEAM program, the code, or any other aspects that it gets more attention from the kids, because some of them have a very high English level, so they don't want just to do the simple language program during the vacations. They want to do even more. Okay.
Maura, you wanted to add something?
Yes, right.
Yeah, I was going to say that because we have these two scenarios for junior programs. The kids that still don't speak English. And so the parents want them to have an experience and learn English. And then now we have already a demand of kids that are attending international schools, bilingual schools, IB schools. Is a growing market in Brazil. And they don't want to take English, regular English programs with activities. They want to go to a program with a specific content, like digital developing or leadership, entrepreneurship, or whatever, but nothing to do with the language learning. So that's, I think Alex will also agree, and Andrea, this is a growing demand for this very specific programs to add value to their experience as teenagers. So they go for the high school afterwards, or they go to higher education using the experience they have. Because this, as you said, these programs, academic programs, they can also have like a volunteer component, something that really adds value to the experience. Because at the end of the day, they have to invest, the parents, a lot. It's always expensive to leave Brazil for anything. We are far away from the rest of the world. So the airfare is super expensive. It's summertime in Europe when everything is super expensive. So they need to have something that adds value. So my thoughts for the educators is that you offer something with a lot of content. Brazilians do value things with content, because we seem to be like party people, but because of the very high investment, we really want to get the most out of this investment, sending the kids abroad.
Yeah, and this is a very nice connection to a question I actually had. So what do you, and maybe Alex, you can answer this, what do you think are the study abroad outcomes for Brazilian students, what they are seeking? And it probably will be different for a different segment or the sector we are talking about, but I do wonder, do you see a clear kind of traits that this is what higher education students are usually looking for to have as an outcome? This is more traditional for English language or for the K-12. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, actually, when we touch this and we see our surveys, and also from my personal point of view, especially working with this, every time I have the chance to travel to a different country, I see this as a graduate program I am adding to my CV. So that's how I see this. So honestly, even if we talk to the parents of teenagers, as Andrea spoke really well about these trends and everything here, I believe that parents at the end of the line, they're always, even when we're talking about teenagers, they're always thinking on sending the kid abroad so they could become better professionals in the future. So when we talk about college students or university students or even young professionals or adult students, I would say that almost 100% of international education students who go abroad, they want to do this because they want to get a better professional view in the market, to grow as professionals in the future. So, we are a country that we have an official unemployment rate at about 8%. So out of more than 200 million people, at least 8%, which is probably, I believe for the official numbers, it should be all 16 plus people are unemployed in Brazil. It's a lot of people. So of course we need to all, even if you come from a better, or if you have a better way of life with more money, let's say, you're not really seeking for a better life, even if you already have go to a good school, your family has good money and everything, it's always so competitive to enter the professional market. And as we do not speak English as our mother tongue, English usually, especially English, but of course some other languages as well, Spanish, Italian, German, and so forth, helps us get in a better professional position in the future. So and that's, this also leads to a thing that, that's why work rights for Brazilian students is always very important abroad, because sometimes, of course, we decide to go abroad, not only to become a better professional, to come back to Brazil, but also to try our lives abroad.
Yeah.
Maybe we may find better opportunities, professional opportunities or living opportunities in other countries. So for me, the outcome is always towards becoming a better professional in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a very strong message, generally speaking, for young people. Andre, would you like to add something? Are there any other messages that Brazilian families and students might be receptive to when they are looking into studying abroad?
No, I guess Maura and Alex explained it quite well about, the Brazilian, let's say, profile, and especially if you talk with parents, natural parents, that's what they think. So as Maura said, the investment is very high depending on the program. So the parents really want their kids to have a very good experience, to be well cared. So the Brazilian parents are very protective. So it's similar to the Italians, to the Mexicans. And they are very demands, especially when you speak with natural parents that wants to send adolescents, high school age, abroad to spend 1 semester or 1 year. So we have to really to explain to them the reality. Okay, now it's very common in the houses, especially if you're middle to upper class, to have a maid, to have people to clean their house. So it's completely different in Europe and most of the countries from Brazil. So we try to really give a good counseling to them and explain. So look, you're going to have a great experience, but you have to be part of the family. You have to really help, especially in terms of high school. So in my experience was excellent. I live in a farm, so I did some things that I never have done here in Brazil. So I helped lots of things, my host family. So it's really a part of the experience. So, and I would say that to have a good experience, especially for adolescents, they I would say at least 50% of the experience must be a good family. They must feel welcome, and they're very participate. They want to do everything. So as Maura said, Brazilians sometimes are told that they're very only party. No, it's not like that. I would say the adolescents, they really want to do everything. They're very active, they're proactive. They want to participate, they want to do sports, they want to go to the movies, they want to go to shopping. So it's different from other countries. Okay.
As we are a little bit approaching the time, and this is a webinar specifically for recruitment, let's talk about a little bit of tips and tricks. So, and I'll couple 2 questions together. So what would you say are the most common mistakes that educators, providers do when trying to recruit students or with the interaction with education agencies? And coupled with that, what kind of support you would welcome from education providers? Are there could you be specific, any particular activities, things that you would welcome to have that in the recruitment of students from Brazil? And Maura, would you like to start on that?
Yep. I think, educators should really understand a little bit about the Brazilian culture, listen to their partners, and really take to, seriously how they're going to deliver the program, mainly for the teenage programs during the summer times, in terms of training their staff, having well-prepared tutors, because what I see is that sometimes because of the high demand, they just have people at the last minute hired to work at their summer schools. And I think they should take this very seriously. There is a lot of offer in the market. And as I said, we are looking for quality, and these kids can go back to the countries as high school kids, as higher educations, because the more the experience better succeeded, the more they will be willing to go back to that country. So my advice to the educators is that they really work together with the agents. And I was going to just add, in terms of teenagers, is that Brazilians like to travel in groups. So they leave Brazil as groups with guides and everything. And very few are now starting to go for individual programs, even though they're young, but mainly they leave Brazil as groups. So be very fast to send us the quotes so we can start promoting the groups early in advance.
That's right.
Andre, would you like to add?
No, I completely agree with Maura. I guess it's as I talked a little bit before. So the Brazilians are I say that they're kind of demanding, okay, in certain points, okay. But as Maura said, we really need sometimes for the suppliers to be more organized, to receive a group, to greet them, to offer, explain in details. So I guess, and as Maura said, the Brazilian kids, they love to be together, okay? And also love to interact, not only to stay. So if you're in a Durham program, in a high school, in a boarding school campus, so they want to interact, they want to play with people from everywhere and get to know and be friends of everyone. So I think it's like that. Maybe Alex can add something.
Yeah, and Alex, if you can also add a little bit maybe on the adult market, because I know that's also of interest. That was one of the questions that pop up.
Yeah, the point, when we speak about international education, we have to remember that overall speaking for Brazilians, everything considered a cheap program is expensive for Brazilians because of the value of our currency. So, if you go towards the US dollar, Canadian dollar, New Zealand, Australia, euro, pounds, whatever, usually we're gonna have to multiply the price of that program times 5, times 6, times 4, whatever. So what this brings? It brings that people who can really afford international education in Brazil, overall speaking, they have a pretty decent way of life here. So of course, even if they are adults, Brazilians overall, they might be a bit more demanding than they should. As Andre mentioned, is the very correct word. So we need to remember that. And then, when we're talking here about the suppliers, the schools and the programs, everything, but also looking at our agent side. We always try to show agents more and more in our exhaustive trainings that the main mistake that an agent can make is to sell cheaper programs to people who can pay more. So sometimes we can easily find more than 1,000 agents in the Brazilian market. It's already confusing there's so many agents in Brazil, a lot of mature people as well. I always advocate for a mature market with very good agents in every single program. But at the same time, it becomes too aggressive, sometimes commercially speaking, for sales and everything, and then goals and sales goals and all those kinds of things that brings the pressure to the agents, that sometimes agents, they end up pushing sales of not the best programs to people who could really pay more and go to better programs abroad. So, it's the two sides. We need to work together. For you, showing the providers that Brazilians who are coming abroad, they do have a nice life here, so they're going to be quite demanding. But at the same time, we need to teach ourselves more and more to really sell the right program to the right people, to avoid further discussions after the students are abroad.
Yeah, I think especially for Brazil being such a strong agency-driven market, and also with all the changes that we see in the English-speaking destinations, in terms of regulation of trying to regulate a little bit of the agency market, it will be ever more important to really have very good partners that can help you to recruit the right students for the right programs that meet the requirements and the quality that the education institution is offering. I do have one last question to kind of offer a little bit of an overview on an outlook. So what do you think? Where do you see the Brazilian market 5 years from now? How do you think all the trends that we are seeing now will evolve and will emerge? And Maura, you started. Would you like to start on this one?
As I said, I think the Brazilian market is a growing market, considering that we have a young population that is still going to be ready to go abroad. So don't give up on us. And it's I think it's very important that the countries, along with the educators, are very present in the Brazilian market in terms of being here, participating, training us, because people forget. I think I read one question, is like, why is the USA not? No, Brazilians love to go to the US. The problem is always the visa thing. So if you organize a summer camp in July, you have to think about the visa if the kid doesn't have. So visas, as I said, always have to do. So in 5 years, maybe we won't need visas. That's for the US, and Canada always goes after the US. And so if they don't ask for visas, Canada won't ask for visas. No, that's a dream. But I think it's we are going to be here, I hope, in 5 years. I'm kind of old, but I'm very motivated to be in this market. And maybe we'll be talking about the market in 5 years, and you will see that we are going to be growing, and even with more interesting programs that are going to be developed for the Brazilian market. So I'm very positive for the next 5 years.
Andre, how
Well,
about you?
I agree with Maura, and I guess probably in 5 years from now on, maybe some new destinations will come up for us, and we're also, as Maura said, it would be a paradise for Brazilians to not need a visa, especially US and Canada, which are the most popular destinations for us. Probably maybe at least for a certain public, maybe minors, would help a lot. Okay, we probably could be increase a lot our numbers in terms for high school and junior programs without a visa. And so I guess it really we're growing. It keeps growing a lot all the year, every time. So I'll leave the time for Alex to say something.
So once again, it's good to see that we share with you that we have a large young population in Brazil. I believe that teenagers or young people are the ones who plant the seed of these destinations for our adult students in the future. So as we are already living a nice time, for a couple of years of young people traveling abroad from Brazil for teenage programs, for summer camps, for high school programs, it's going to come together, so higher education programs, adult programs are going to grow at the same way, because the young people from 10 years ago, they are now going to college abroad, and that's the way things are becoming more and more popular. So it's always important to pay a good attention in the teenagers in Brazil for international education. And then at the end of the line, I really see an stability of a slight growth of our numbers in Brazil for the next 5 years at least. So we should remain strong and better, a little bit better year by year. That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So there is so many questions that are popping up, and I try to answer some of them and shape my questions around like what I saw that was coming in. But if you do not mind, I'll ask you a couple of the questions that are still kind of there and we haven't touched. And I usually go more into the specifics. So we talked about a lot about the junior segment, and one of the questions is, what is the average length of time for a junior program? So how long they usually prefer to stay, and what is the most popular time of a year when they are kind of want to do the junior programs?
Can I say?
Of course.
For the juniors, from 2 to 4 weeks, because this is the break they have at school. I see a trend for fewer weeks, like for 2, due to the cost. So in the past, I only sent for 4 weeks. Now we have a demand for 2 weeks, but it's because of the investment, as I said, and parents don't want to give up the opportunity to send their kids. So it's better to send for lesser weeks. So educators can provide those options 2, 3, and 4. Brazilians teenagers would not go for further than 4 weeks. In high school, in my time, I was also high school. I did for a full year, but I see a trend that everybody goes for 1 semester, and then they think about it, and they extend for 1 more semester for 1 full year. But we have also seen people now going for more than a year if they want to prepare themselves to enter universities abroad. I have a couple of students that have done this, and I see parents looking for this possibility. So we see the market changing a little bit towards this trend.
Yeah.
Andrea, would you like to add? Also,
And just for in terms for the junior programs, it's January and July. Just to complete what Mara told. The months, January, which is our vacation, school vacation here.
okay.
Okay.
There is a lot of questions. So we touched a lot about, I think we covered very well, ELT sector, we covered quite well, the junior sector, high schools and the summer courses. I wonder, do you have any visibility on the preferred fields of study for higher education for students, what type of field they're interested in? Would you have any visibility on that? And I don't know who feels the strongest to answer this question.
Alex is the Belta president. He can answer.
Okay.
The difficult one comes to me, right? Actually, what we see, of course, any teenager in Brazil, we have so many teenagers here, each one of them want to pursue a different career in the future. What happens is that sometimes when we look on going abroad for an undergraduate program or a postgraduate program, sometimes some programs, they're not so easy to go through the admission process. So at the end of the line, we sell a lot of business programs. We sell a lot more of the programs in the humanities side than in the science side, because sometimes the application process abroad are a little bit more difficult. But of course, overall speaking, we're going to have a lot of people looking to go abroad for the business programs, for the engineering programs, for the IT programs, for the arts and creativity programs, for the medicine and health programs as well. So, the demand is always going to be there. We are a huge country. The point is how easy it is to enter a university abroad in each of those programs. So sometimes when we have someone ready to go to an engineering program abroad, but then the application process becomes too hard and they decide to start their experience abroad through business, for example. So that's more about what is offered out there and how easy it is to get there than what kind of demand we can have in Brazil.
And I have two last questions and then we can conclude. So one of the kind of recurring theme was there also geographical distribution between the destinations. So if you go down a little bit more into the city level. So one of the questions was how to possibly attract more students to smaller Canadian cities, Canada being such a strong destination for Brazilian students. What smaller cities could offer to Brazilian students to attract them and to study there? I can see a clear connection, for example, for K-12 and safety in smaller cities, but maybe you have a different point on that.
Okay, can I answer?
Of course, Andrea, go ahead.
I guess especially talk about K-12 students. I personally, I really part of my job is to have this kind of meetings with parents and students. Okay, looking for high school. So and especially thinking about Canada, I always tell them it's a great advantage to live in a smaller community if you're high school students. Taking from my experience, I live in a very small town with 3,000 inhabitants, and I live in a farm 10 kilometers from the center. So I guess this is kind of radical, but maybe smaller cities the students feel more welcome. Everyone knows everybody. So I guess for thinking about adolescents experience, it is the best thing. Okay.
Yeah, I would add to that is it's a cultural thing. Brazilians, when they go abroad, as I said, because we are far away, they want to go to places where everybody knows where it is. So if they go to Canada, they want to go to Vancouver, first to Toronto, and then it's pretty much up to us to show them the size of Canada and the possibilities. So you can go here and there for K-12 or for higher education. There are many possibilities, but I don't think they know all the difference. So it's pretty much up to us to bring this, as would be in the UK. Everybody wants to go to London, and then people say, why don't they go to Brighton, Bristol, Bath? Because they are so beautiful. It's very much up to us to show them. And it starts in the teams program when we send to the groups to these very different places, but still they want to go to London, or they want to go to New York, and so on. So it's very cultural. So the educators have to understand it's not because we want to send everybody to those places, they come and ask. So we need to work together to bring, to show them why they should go here. As André said, it's safer, it's nice, you're gonna have the same fun, but we need to educate them about these possibilities.
Alex, would you have a similar visibility also in the US?
Honestly, I think Maura and Andrea, they answered the question, but not the way I would answer,
Okay, go ahead.
because I'm here more to ask, because I believe that this question comes from a provider, from a school provider or something. So what can you do more with us, to sell more smaller cities, either in the US, Canada, whatever? The point is, as if Brazil is an agent-driven market, we must be prepared to sell those small destinations. Of course, we show them, as André spoke really well, Mara as well, how we tell the families that maybe the experience is going to be even more complete in a smaller place. But how am I going to make a teenager change their mind, maybe, or even an adult person change their mind to go from the city they see on the news all the time, on TV and everything, to go to this smaller place? We need to go there as agents to see the place. We need to go there. So we need to work together to organize the famous fan trips.
Yes.
So we need the schools to invest on us. We as agents need to invest on ourselves to go there and really see the place. Go around a small town in Canada, in the UK, in Australia, the US, and everything. So as when we go there, we see this, we touch this small place. We come back, we feel it from our hands. That's how we can show people more about that. So that's more of the flag I would carry on that, to make this small place programs become more popular. It really helps when we can make these fan trips happen.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It took a little bit more time, so thank you all. I really, really do want to show my greatest and deepest gratitude. I think that covers it all. Thank you so much for sharing all the invaluable contributions that you had and the insights you shared with us here now. And also thank you all for posing the questions. There is still a lot of questions that we haven't got to, but we'll try to do that after the webinar and try to respond to as many of the questions that has been there. So thank you again. I very much appreciate. If you have more questions, or do you like to know, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can contact us at education@bonard.com. You can follow us on our LinkedIn, Bonard Education page, or look up our website. And also, in a case you are actually attending NAFSA 2024, and you want to learn more about student mobility flows or our team, and we'll be happy to meet you and to kind of discuss that more in depth. You can book the meetings with my colleagues who will be there and find more information. We're also having a presentation there. So let me close this by saying thank you again. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Maura. This was very insightful. Thank you for sharing everything you did with us. And I hope to meet you in the same composition or very similar one very soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure.